The 3rd of January, Rabbi Furst, Parsha Hashavua with Rashi, Vayigash.
And thank you, Lou. As Lou mentions Rabbi Stone first here in the Shiva Sabanashi Muslim Care of Zoom. Parsha's Vayigash Rana Tafshin Pei. Hey, okay. Let's begin with the Parsha that um, yeah. At the beginning of Parsha Memhei Pasuk Aleph. We'll start there and we'll go through it slowly. Bez Hashem.
Memhei. Okay. Let's see. Yosef could not endure in the presence of all who stood before him. So he called out, "Remove everyone from before me." Thus no one stood with him when Yosef made himself known to his brothers.
Right.
The Rashi says, now Yosef could not endure in the presence of all who stood. He could not bear that there should be Egyptians standing before him and hearing that his brothers are shamed when he makes himself known to them.
Yeah, so it's a very important point. This sort of touches in a different way on this topic we discussed a little bit this past week based on your question. Why does it matter to Kadosh Baruch Hu, his reputation among the Goyim so much? Why is that so important?
Right.
So here we see another aspect that even between Yosef and his brothers, um, now we don't necessarily know at this point what Yosef's reaction is going to be when he finally reveals himself to his brothers. But we see that he was concerned for them saving face. They shouldn't be shamed in front of the Egyptians.
Right.
Now,
What did it do with with the with the reputation among the goyim?
don't forget that Avram Avinu was the first one who proclaimed to the whole world the unity and the belief in the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and these were his grandsons.
Oh, that raises another question. This is kind of an aside, um, but of course, I've heard that statement made many times. Abraham was the first, but we have the yeshiva of Shem and Aver, which I believe that they taught that there was one God, um, and Yaakov Avinu learned there for 14 years. So they were teaching Torah, some aspect of Torah.
Right.
So they predated Abraham.
Correct. Now, what you said, we have to emphasize. We have to emphasize they were learning and teaching Torah. There was always Torah. Adam Rishon had Torah. Noah had Torah. Noah, Shem Be'aver, those were those were his children, right?
Right.
Avram Avinu himself learned by Noah for decades and decades. He also, as you mentioned, learned by Shem Be'aver. But what was unique about Avram Avinu is he took the message to the streets. He took the message to the people, right? Those who came into the what I don't really know for hard and true facts, but what I would imagine it was that the yeshiva there was their yeshiva, and yeshiva catered to those people who came to the yeshiva and wanted to learn. They wanted to learn, and they taught them. And there was obviously much to learn, much to gain, and they were doing tremendous things. However, that the masses of the people should have a message brought to them, and they should be in many ways influenced to serve a Kadosh Baruch Hu because of that. So that was something apparently was unique to Avraham Avinu.
Right. So
That's
Avraham Avinu did outreach, whereas
yeah,
Shem
yeah. I
V'Av,
mean,
they just
I
stayed
guess
in the yeshiva. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, I would say so. I mean, as a very simple, basic, non-educated answer, that's how I would answer you.
Okay. All right. Anyway, that was just an aside. So
Yeah.
we were saying that Joseph's concern for his brothers, somehow you were relating that to Hashem's concern for non-Jews.
Right. So you see that uh, the just as Joseph was concerned with his brothers saving face and their reputation amongst the Egyptians, because again, like you can look at it from two points of view at least. One is just from the normal aspect of you don't want to have your kinfolk embarrassed or ashamed in front of other people. But you can take it to another level. As I said, that since Abraham Avinu was the one who brought this message to the world, so his offspring, his grandchildren, were also perhaps expected to follow in his ways as well, and therefore it could be more serious if if the brothers were shamed in front of the strangers. After all, you have to realize they had just arrived in Mitzrayim, and and really up until this point, I mean, let me ask you a question that just occurred to me. I mean, this is the third time, right? This is the third time that they're appearing. Second, the first time they went down for the food, he took Shimon, he confronted them, "You're spies, right? Don't come back unless you bring your little brother with you," right? So so now they went back, and now they came again with Binyamin. They left, and they had were framed by putting the goblet in Binyamin's sack, and now they're brought back to appear to Yosef. This is the third time they're appearing to Yosef, right?
Right,
And so there must have been there were obviously were the Egyptians around at the time, right?
right,
So now, after all this intrigue going back and forth, so now finally, guess what? These are my brothers. Well, where have you been the last two times they showed up? The last three times they showed up, but they weren't your brothers until now.
right.
Isn't that an obvious question? I mean, what are the Egyptians going to think? What this Joseph accused his brothers. They knew they were accused. I mean, they knew they were accused of being spies. Shimon was taken into the. Good morning, Roy.
Good morning, Rabbi Furst. Good morning, Lou.
Good morning. Good morning. We're asking the following question, Roy.
Mhm.
When Joseph is about to reveal himself to his brothers, right? So Rashi explains that he sent all the Egyptians out from before him, so
Right.
the brothers shouldn't be shamed in front of the Egyptians, right? Now,
Um, I thought it was the other, I thought it was so that they wouldn't see him breaking down.
Well, if you look at
Right.
the Rashi, you have your Rashi there.
No, not at the moment. Haven't opened the safer yet.
Oh, if you like, you can.
All right.
Mem Hey, Roy, chapter 45.
Mem, hey, okay. Thank you. All right, I can't. Mem, hey, I got mem base, mem gimel, mem dollar. I missed mem hey. Sorry. Okay, go on. Mem hey base. Aleph mem base 45. Oh, I can't find 45. Mem Kuf,
Chapter 44.
chapter 44. Don't let me hold you up. Just go. I've got Excels on that.
You do the,
What you got? It's in Vayigash. Where is it? Sorry.
it's in Vayigash, yeah.
Okay. Oh well, this might be easier to
You want me to read it to you?
Yeah.
So Yosef could not endure in the presence of all who stood before him.
Mm-hmm.
Rashi says he could not bear that there should be Egyptians standing before him and hearing that his brothers are shamed when he makes himself known to them.
Okay. All right. So which what pasuk was that then?
One.
Okay. The very beginning. Okay. All right.
So what do we see from this Rashi here? That Yosef was concerned about the honor of his brothers, correct?
All right.
Not necessarily. I was thinking that he's concerned about his brothers being embarrassed.
Well, that's what I thought it meant.
Their feelings, in other words, not necessarily their covet, but their feelings that you should keep it private so that they don't feel embarrassed.
So what does it mean? I've got the translation here. Then Joseph could not refrain himself before all them that stood by him. He could not refrain himself. Is that right?
Refrain. Well, I'm not sure the word refrain. I thought maybe he could not um, uh, hold himself back. He could not control himself.
Yes.
My English, he could not. And I wrote in a note that says he could not abide.
I'm not sure what that means in this context. What does it mean by abide?
It means that he couldn't take it. He couldn't take the emotional feelings that he had in front of all the people. He needed privacy.
Okay. So how did he get his privacy?
He said everybody out.
The brothers were there. He wasn't private.
He said, "Remove everyone from before me." Thus, no one stood when he made himself known to his brothers. He told everybody to get out, except him and the brother.
Why? But why?
Because because he himself would be embarrassed to break down emotionally, to express his emotions in front of the Egyptians.
That's not. But Rashi doesn't say that.
Well, correct.
Yeah, the Rashi says that he could not bear that the Egyptians should stand by him, witnessing how his brothers would be put to shame when he made himself known to them. But
Doesn't mention anything about
but
his
that
own embarrassment.
yeah, but the brothers wouldn't be the only ones who would have some sort of emotion. He also would have emotion.
Yeah,
He
well,
wouldn't
yeah.
he wouldn't stand by um, callously, or he wouldn't stand by without feeling anything, and in this case, probably letting himself go once his brothers let themselves go too.
Where does shame come into this anyway?
Shame.
Yeah,
What's
where's shame?
what's
Why is there any reason for shame over here?
yeah. He would be talking. He'd be talking to them in what? In Egyptian or in Coptic language, or would he be talking to them in Hebrew or whatever? Not Hebrew. Whatever
Yeah,
language.
that's a good question. I don't really know. I don't know. Um,
Anyway, so um, but
um,
Actually, that's a very interesting point, Roy, because if he revealed himself in Hebrew, the Egyptians didn't have to be kicked out because they wouldn't understand what he was saying anyway.
the actions of the brothers would be uh, would be shown to them that the brothers that see that something is up. The brothers would be however they would be. I don't know how you would feel if you had a long lost brother revealed to you who was in the taxation office.
Yeah, good point. I think
I
maybe
think where
there,
where where where, where does shame come into this? Where is there a room? Who's mentioned? Why was Rashi talking about shame? Where's there going to be? Where's shame involved?
Would the Depends on what Yosef said. We don't know what Yosef actually said, the words, do we? What he said to
Um,
his brothers. What was the conversation? Was it I'm your long lost brother, the one that you tried to kill, the one that you put into a ditch, that you sold to the uh, slave traders, whatever, the one that you
well,
hated?
well, I mean, don't forget Joseph's history was well known to everybody, and there was no secret he was a slave boy.
Sorry, say that again. I didn't hear that
There
properly.
was no, everyone knew Joseph's background. Everyone knew he was a slave boy.
Yes, but did they all know what their brothers did to him? I don't think so.
Well, let me ask you another question. How this is the third time the brothers are appearing before Joseph, right?
Okay.
These are the same people that came once before, and he took Shimon. He accused them of being spies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So so after this is all revealed, is that a brotherly thing for a person to do, to accuse his brothers of being spies?
Normally, no.
So what are the Egyptians supposed to think about that? Who is this? Who is this Yosef accusing his brothers of being spies? He took Shimon and put him in jail.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I think they go into the commentaries try and explain. They try and understand whether or not after the brothers left, whether Shimon was left in jail or not, or perhaps Shimon had been now told the truth.
Mm. All right. Is there an answer
So
to your question?
I don't know. I'm just trying to think. He's trying to protect the brothers from being shamefaced in front of the Egyptians, right? But now the word's going to go out that these fellows that have now appeared, this is the third time they're appearing before Yosef. Yosef has framed them, right? He has framed them, right? Accused them of being spies. He's framed them for stealing things from his household, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. But yeah,
Seems I would make a good soap opera, no? Make a nice Hollywood show.
it would. It would. Um, there's actually quite a few films of that nature. Um,
So here now, when he's about to reveal himself to the brothers, so he's concerned. Okay, I agree. He's rightfully concerned about the honor of his brothers, that he shouldn't be shamed in front of the Egyptians. But what's been going on, right? Everybody knows what's been going on, right? Don't forget, Joseph was not a small person. Joseph was the second in command of Egypt. He was a royal figure, right? And there were people there. They people have seen these bunch of Jews coming from Canaan, coming and going several times from the palace, right? And what's your average Egyptian supposed to think? Joseph just realized that these people are his brothers.
they had no chance, did they, of recognizing him when they
Well,
first
that's
saw
it.
him?
What the brothers?
Yeah, despite the fact that they thought that he was dead or whatever, or in some hellhole being a slave or something like that. Despite that, wouldn't they didn't even suspect. We don't know anything about that from the Chumash, but you know,
You mean the brothers didn't suspect that these were his
Yosef was was the one that they tried to get rid of. Yeah.
Well, see that raises a point. We know that Rashi explains at the beginning of Parsha Vayigash that Joseph was identical to Yaakov Avinu. Joseph looked
Yeah.
exactly like Yaakov Avinu. You might
Oh,
remember the
right,
Rashi there,
right,
right?
right. So they didn't think that their father was two-timing, did they? So, well, sort of rushing from one place to another before they could get there. Um, but don't forget, he was also decorated like an Egyptian is decorated, or were decorated. That's quite an effective disguise.
Yeah, but don't you think that ten brothers, at least one of them amongst them, would recognize somebody who's sitting on the throne of Egypt, looking exactly like his father?
Mm. Yeah, they should recognize. So they'd be shamed by not in that they didn't say anything, didn't recognize it, didn't want to know about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so Rabbi Tusky Zichron Baruch Hu used to comment about this. He says, "See, you see, psychologically, they were convinced that Joseph was, if he was alive at all, he would be in the lowest of all possible situations in Egypt. They had no concept that they could even, in their greatest imaginations, think and believe that he could be sitting on the throne in Egypt. So even
Mm.
though the person looking at them, talking to them, looks exactly like their father, right? They couldn't psychologically
Accept that.
analyze the vision in front of their eyes,
Mm.
that their belief was tainting their view. So they weren't able to recognize Joseph as being their brother, but they very well should have. That's a separate point. But that just goes to show how careful we have to be in making sure our preconceived notions don't affect our thoughts and our perceptions. Like our preconceived notions do have a very strong effect on our perceptions.
So there's something to be something to be said about having no emotions, but it's
Yeah.
not possible.
That's clearly impossible, right? Okay, let's continue on. Let's see the rest of the next pasuk.
Um, so Joseph says, remove everyone from before me. So no one stood with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. He gave forth his voice in weeping. Egypt heard, and Pharaoh's household heard. But Rashi says, Pharaoh's household heard. The house of Pharaoh, that is to say, his servants and the members of his household. This does not mean he's an actual house. Rather, it is in the same sense as the house of Israel, the house of Judah, Mines Nidi in Old French.
Very good. Okay.
So this is along with what you just said. Everybody knew what was going on.
Apparently, right. Right. Yeah, Joseph was constantly. Joseph was there in Mitzrayim all by himself. Like, okay, he had two sons. He had two sons. How old were his sons, by the way? Ephraim and Manasseh.
Well, they were born during the famine, and it was 2 years after the famine. So that's a total of 9 years. So the oldest that they could be would be 9.
Right. So they're not very big at this point, right?
Right.
Okay.
So it would be 9.
Excuse me? 9 years. It should be 9, but probably not older than 9 years old.
Who?
Ephraim was not older than 9.
Oh, he was the youngest brother.
So Manasseh was the oldest. Manasseh was not older than 9. Well, neither of them were older than 9.
So we're saying at this particular point of time, when they went in and confronted Yosef, they were in that age area.
Yes.
Well, the Ephraim and Manasseh,
They weren't young men.
The sons of Joseph, they were only at best, at oldest, 9 years old now. Right? Joseph took control of Egypt in the beginning of the 7 years of satiation, and then we're now 2 years into the famine. That makes 9 years. So Joseph has been viceroy of Egypt for 9 years, and he was given his wife at the beginning of his reign. Right? So the maximum the boys could have been would be 9 years old.
Oh,
Joseph's
children.
Joseph's children, yeah, Joseph's children, right.
Oh, see, right. Yeah, I don't know a lot of things. Don't put
Okay.
together, I don't put together one and one. Well, I do, and I come up with anything except two.
Well, that's don't worry.
Um,
Mhm. Let's go to the next parsec. See the next Rashi.
And Yosef said to his brothers, I am Yosef. Is my father still alive? But his brothers could not answer him because they were left disconcerted before him. Rashi says, they were left disconcerted before him because of the shame.
Now we have to. That's what we're going to try and find out here. What was this? What was the shame?
When he says to them, is my father still alive?
Right.
Implying, why weren't you concerned about the pain you caused my father when you sold me and kidnapped me? And that's going to make them feel bad.
so that's where the shame would come in.
I think so. I mean, he didn't have to say that. That was kind of unfeeling of Yosef to emphasize that point.
Is that what? But he knew he was going to say that if he sent everybody out for that reason, to spare shame. That's where the shame would come in. If not,
No, included Yosef, and there still would have been a sense of shame, but it wouldn't have been as strong, I think.
hmm. I think to analyze the feelings of the people in the Chumash, you have to have a degree in psychology or something like that.
So, no, no.
We can,
Um,
we, we, we're trying to analyze this basically according to how we might feel about our feelings or how we think, and that will be caused by us. It'll be determined by our the way we are, how we think these protagonists should behave, what they should feel. I suppose Rashi would be an expert at understanding people's feelings.
well, I mean, Rashi is explaining what Chazal revealed to us, that this was a situation of the shame of the brothers. Now the question is trying to understand what was the exact source of the shame that they're going through here. That
I think Chazal were experts on human nature. They understood how people work, how people think, how people feel. And they share a lot of that knowledge with us in the Talmud, in the Mishnah and the Gemara. A lot of what we learned there is this wisdom about human nature. For example, we'll learn about contracts and what what does the Malva think when he writes the document? What does the Lova think? How do we understand the way we apply the document, given our knowledge of human nature and the way people think and react and feel? That's just one example of what I think I've seen in my learning, that we're supposed to analyze these situations and draw upon the knowledge of the sages to understand the feelings and the thoughts and apply them to ourselves.
Right. Just want to see something here. 1 minute. Nivhal. See, the pasuk uses a lashon nivhalu. Nivhalu. How do they translate that expression nivhalu?
Yikalu, let's see if I can find it.
Where is it?
It's in Pasuk 3.
I believe, let's see, pasuk 3, 1 second. Yes, the third pasuk, correct.
Mi panav.
Yeah, nivhalu.
Mi pa'alu. Mi pa'alu. I don't see that word.
Miphalu. Nun base or base hey lamed vav. Is that it? Miphalu
That's right.
mipanim mipanoi. Ki nipalu mipanoi.
Nifalu, yes. Okay, so they translate that as disconcerted. But I have some notes that I've written. I wrote dumbfounded and I wrote bewildered.
Uh-huh.
These are things that, if I'm in a shir and we're discussing something and the rabbi says what something means, sometimes I write it down. This may be from Rabbi Moore.
Okay, but Rashi says what? Rashi says
But amazed.
Shamed.
amazed. Okay, we're amazed. And Rashi.
On the phrase Nifhalu mipanav, he says mipnei habusha.
They were embarrassed.
Because of
Ashamed.
People are amazed because they're embarrassment.
Disconcerted or dumbfounded.
And that fits in with what's the connection between that and
So, but they were amazed at his presence.
Yeah, you have a good point, Rabbi. Why would we say that they're dumbfounded or bewildered? Because of shame.
right?
It doesn't really seem that busha fits.
Right.
What makes one dumbfounded? Looking backwards. What makes one ashamed? What makes one amazed? All these things I think would apply, all these words would apply, I think, to to hear the revelations that took place and seeing who's who. That would do all those things to any one person if they're got some sort of conscience.
There's I'm not sure if you have a Megillus Esther nearby, perhaps. Here,
A what?
we just got through with Hanukkah, so now it's time to start preparing for Purim. No,
I'm sorry. My hearing isn't very good, and I went yesterday to try and do something about it, and I got caught up with so much red tape that I haven't got anything yet. I've got to go through the whole process again. So it might be a few months before I'm able to hear, at least artificially. So my poor wife has got to suffer.
yes.
Well,
Russ, I'm just in Megillus Esther. And you look in chapter 7, Perek Zion, Pasuk Vav.
Miss Esther Zion. By the time I find it, we'll be onto something else. But
arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden. Is that what you want, Rabbi? And Haman stood up to make
Right.
request for his life in Esther.
Actually, Pasuk Vav, the Pasuk before that.
And Esther said, the adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman. Then Haman was struck with terror before the king and the queen.
So here we see that Esther is exposing Haman, right, as the culprit, and his reaction. The Megillah says Haman was niv'as. He was struck with terror. So this would be perhaps the appropriate response that I would expect from the brothers, maybe. Niv'as, they would be struck with terror.
Well, in the case of Haman, he's going to be executed. He's in the presence of the king, who has the power to execute him, and in fact, he's going to be executed. So terror is appropriate, but in the case of Yosef, I mean, yeah, Yosef is the viceroy. He could theoretically execute them, but that's not really the environment. When Yosef is revealing himself, I think bewilderment seems very appropriate to me if we just take it at face value, that they were bewildered. It's like, huh? He's Yosef? What? That's very disconcerting. It's very bewildering. It's setting them off their kilter.
wouldn't they say, we're in trouble now? Wouldn't they think that?
That's more along the lines I'm thinking, Roy. Exactly. First of all, don't forget they've already been accused of being spies. Shimon has been taken and put in prison. He's demanded, if you ever want to see me again, you have to come back with Binyamin, right? The first time they left, they had all their money back. The second time they left, Binyamin is now accused of stealing the royal goblet. These guys are in big trouble. No?
I think they'll be having a whole lot of unpleasant thoughts like that. I don't know if any one of them would dominate, although they'd probably think, in those days, of course, if you did something bad in the royal palace, there was no question about it. You're in deep trouble, and you're lucky to get jailed. More likely to get hung, drawn and quartered. Well, the butler and the what's his name got jailed. They were lucky.
That's what I would think. I would think that they should be very fearful for their lives at this point. This is now their brother. Did they immediately assume that Joseph would not be interested in wanting to take revenge against them?
But Joseph himself would realize, looking back upon all the things that happened and when and how they happened, would realize that this was Hashem's doing. Would the brothers so realize and be comforted by that?
Well, you're right. I agree with you, but we're talking about their instantaneous reaction right now, right? It was the instantaneous reaction. Lahavdil, I would think it should be no. When Haman was caught between Esther and the king, right? He probably let loose in his pants. Who knows?
So where that leaves us where?
So I'm still trying to go into the depths of this point about the busha. Yosef was concerned about the busha of the brothers. The brothers, in fact, did become shameful over what Yosef said when he revealed himself. That was their first instantaneous emotion and reaction, which seems a little bit, I don't know, seems to be telling us a little bit more than what we normally would have expected. Okay, maybe let's just leave it for a moment. Let's continue on with the next.
Okay, let's see. So let's see, we're up to 4, I think.
Right.
Then Yosef said to his brothers, "Come close to me, if you please." And they came close. And he said, "I am Yosef, your brother, me, whom you sold to Egypt." So Rashi says, pardon?
Right, go ahead. Let's see the Rashi.
Rashi says, "Come close to me, if you please." He saw them backing away. He said to himself, "Now my brothers feel ashamed." So he called to them with gentle language and supplication and showed them that he was circumcised. So this goes along the lines of what you were saying, Rabbi, that he wants to reassure them because because he thinks that maybe they're afraid.
Well, what does showing his bris milah have to do with anything? What's that supposed to prove?
Well, I had a debate about this with Rabbi Moore. Um, Rabbi Moore is of the opinion that Mamish, he pulled down his pants and revealed himself to them. I'm of the opinion that Chas v'Shalom, he never would do such a thing. That this is a metaphor that he wanted to reassure them that of his character, that when he says, "I am Yosef, I'm a member of your family. I'm a person of high ethical and moral standards." There's an expression, circumcision of the heart, that his heart is circumcised, that I'm not going to do anything bad to you. I'm still your brother. I still love you. Don't be afraid.
Well, and that was supposed to, I mean, and the fact that he had told him this, how's that? Is he reacting to their shame at this point? What is he reacting to?
Um, okay. I have a footnote here that says Yosef. It says had Yosef merely been trying to abate his brother's fear and to stop them from backing away, he could have only said, Geshu na, come close if you please. The superfluous to me indicates that he wished to show them something about himself. So, according to this view, there's two ways to look at it. When he saw they began to back away from him, he was concerned that they were afraid. That's why he has the gentle language. Alternatively, that it wasn't that he was trying to stop them from being afraid, but he was trying to, I guess, endear them to himself. He was trying to say, "I'm your brother. We're together." The problem I have with that approach is that Yosef never says, "I forgive you." He seems to be trying to make them feel better, but he could have been much more direct about it. He could have said, "I forgive you. I don't hold it against you. I see you did tshuva. I overheard your conversation when you thought I was an Egyptian. I overheard that you did tshuva, and I accept your tshuva and I forgive you." He never says that.
Right. Well, what I don't know what did Joseph think? He thought they suspected him of being an imposter. that he wasn't really Joseph?
I don't think so. That's why I don't think it literally means he showed them his circumcision. He wanted to um, reunite the family. He wanted to impress upon them that they were all brothers, that they had a common bond.
So that would increase their shame. This is what you do to a brother? Look, I'm your brother. This is what you did to me? Off with your heads.
Well, if he just wanted to impress upon them that he was not an imposter, he could have easily done it by telling them things that only he and they knew.
He did that with Yosef. Sent a message.
Excuse me, Roy?
He sent such a message to Yosef with the brothers to convince him to come down to Egypt.
You mean to Yaakov?
To Yaakov.
Right. He could have done the same thing with the brothers. He didn't have to show them the circumcision to make them not think he was an imposter.
I mean, you should know the before she asked the question, all the Egyptians had bris milah. You remember the pasuk?
Right. Yeah. Rabbi Moore discussed that. He said that there's something called Priya, I think. Prita, where they pull back some kind of a membrane, and they only do that for a Jewish bris. For a non-Jewish bris, they don't pull back that membrane. So when you look at it, you can tell whether it was a Jewish bris or a non-Jewish bris.
So he's identifying himself as being a Jew now.
Right.
And that's somehow going to soothe their brother's shame over what they did.
Right, coming back to that incident, coming back to that episode,
Yeah.
it was led by who? Two people, three of the brothers
Which episode?
of getting rid of Yosef.
I mean, they were all. I mean, they all decided that's what had to be done with him.
Were any of them coerced, or any of them said, "Yeah, I suppose we have to"? What I'm getting at is that there might be some brothers there who didn't want to do it but did it because they felt they had to stick with everybody else, and they were ashamed that they did it. Now, especially now, in front of Yosef, and the shame was for those brothers.
Mm-hmm. Possibly have to see. We have to go back and see what they say.
You have to analyze it really well if that's something like that. Yeah, I couldn't do that because I don't know Ivrit, but that's a thought. You'd have to see the actual
yeah. Right. In any event, I mean, so what? In a very simple way, just to conclude, you have to see, you have to be, you see from Yosef and his behavior, how very careful you have to be about not embarrassing somebody, even if they might have done wrong to you. You have no right to embarrass a person, even though they might have done wrong to you.
Mhm.
And
Calls us on this phone at the 323-984 number.
this will pick up and continue next week, Mitzvah Shem. Should have
Thank you.
That's
a
correct.
very good Erev Shabbos. Thank you, Roy. Thank you, Lou.
Thank you. Have a good Shabbos, you and your families.
Good Shabbos.
You too. Be well. See
Bye.
you all next week. All right. Shalom.